Hey there, my name is Przemek and this is the 8th part of my top 50 favorite dark deep ambient albums list, and today we'll talk about places 15 to 11. And of course, first of all, thanks for watching the previous parts, and if you haven't seen them yet, the parts 1 to 7 and places 50 to 16, I leave the links in the description of this video. Time for number 15. Shrine, the Final Asylum. This is the debut of the Bulgarian project Shrine, released by Corvus Records in 2006. And if my memory serves me right, in the video review of Shrine's latest album, Nausicaa, I told you how I came across Shrine, but in short, it was actually a coincidence because I was searching the archives of various net labels sometimes in these years, 2005, 6, 7, and there was this net label Miracle Music from Sweden, and I had the impression that the releases are of a higher level in terms of quality than the other net labels. And I checked Shrine's digital EP Harmony, Bliss, Rust, and the reaction was, oh wow, this is awesome. Without much hope, I checked whether any Polish distribution had the full Shrine album in their offer, but surprise, the label and the distro War Office Propaganda had the CDs from Corvus Records, so I didn't think twice and ordered the Final Asylum. And what was my reaction? Well, the reality exceeded expectations. Okay, the cover, well, so, more like some second tier gothic metal, but the music itself completely blew me away. Already on this first album, Christo Gospodinov was able to create his own style, which he consistently developed on following albums. I always say that Shrine creates organic sounds that sound synthetic, and synthetic sounds that sound organic. If it were a book, this album would be a novel at the intersection of hard sci-fi and fantasy. Full of metal flowers and animals, ivy-covered computers, strange structures of unknown origin, portals to other universes. Whenever I play the video game Horizon Zero Dawn, or the sequel The Forbidden West, or No Man's Sky, I think about Shrine music from this particular album. And how beautifully it would fit into these games, melodic, out of this world, a bit dreamy and oniric, but also kind of rooted in science and modern technology. And the song, the fourth one, Unnatural Way, reminds me of a slow flight over an illuminated cyberpunk metropolis. Magical, really. And like Archelion in the last episode of my list, it was on the place 16. 16. Shrine was noticed by Cyclic Law, and the next albums were released on Frederick Sarbul label. Baldur, chodź. Sorry. That guy again. Yeah, I know. All the later albums like Somnia, Nikil, Ordeal, 26th of April 1986, Nausicaa. All those albums were more mature and more refined in terms of sound, complexity of compositions, and graphic design. Christo was constantly polishing his individual style and improving his technical skills. And all those albums are great, of course, but this Final Asylum is still the one that gives me the biggest chills. I mean, literally, I just listened to this album again like an hour ago after a long break, and then this is it. This is the ambient the way I like the most. Number 15, Shrine, the Final Asylum. And number 14, Irezumi, Endurance. Irezumi, Japanese name, probably taken from the film by Yasuzo Masumura from 1966, and this name Irezumi means tattoo. But the project comes from France. It's a project by Manuel Mesdag, usually producing music kind of dub techno, and Endurance is from 2008, and if I'm not mistaken, because I'm not so familiar with his other works, it's his sole, purely ambient production. It is also the only album released by Snowblood label, founded by Nicolas Faure from Asmoroth project. Label which had great plans, but eventually it all went to hell. It's a pity that, what are you gonna do? This is an interesting album because it is basically glacial ambient, but with a very cinematic feeling. It's not only about praising the power of Arctic nature. Endurance has a clear concept, and you can say that it tells us the story of the tragic Imperial Transatlantic expedition led by Ernest Shackleton. In short, during the way on White Continent, his ship Endurance was trapped in ice for many months. The crew hoped that maybe Frost would give up one day. Dreams. Endurance was crushed by ice piles and finally it sank. Sir Ernest, with few of his people, went on a survived lifeboat towards the shores of South Georgia, looking for help for the rest of the crew imprisoned on Elephant Island. They reached this island by drifting on an ice float after the fall of Endurance. Shackleton rescued them, but the truth is they all survived through hell. Yep, it's a quote from my review of Endurance I wrote for Apostasia magazine many years ago, and it's a brief description of that story. And so, despite the fact that it's a glacial ambient, we have a lot of emotions here. Euphoria, fear, despair, courage, loyalty to friends, a sense of unequal confrontation with nature. There's a lot of simple but heart-catching melodies, and the impression that this album is not only about Shackleton's and his crew's actual actions, but also what was happening in their heads and souls and hearts, their struggle within, how they tried to keep the last bits of sanity. There are also on this album a few samples from Shackleton movie with Kenneth Branagh, which are kind of key points of this story. Back in the days I really liked these samples. Today I'm a bit more skeptical, because they make these emotions often very straightforward, in your face, as if the music is telling you you have to feel exactly this or that in this very moment, not leaving very a lot of space for imagination in those particular moments of the album, but it's generally a trifle. This is also an ambient with a low entry threshold, even for people who don't listen to ambient on a daily basis. The songs are melodic. I think I've already said that. But each of them has its own character and individual style. All of you can easily distinguish all those tracks after one or two listenings. And you know what, I keep saying Shackleton, but in fact I listened to this album when I was reading, where is it? I don't see it. Here it is. This book, Terror, by Dan Simmons, also about an Antarctic expedition of Erebus and Terror ships, the expedition that ended much more tragically. Dan Simmons added some supernatural threads in this novel, but it's really good, and how much this music fits and works as a reading soundtrack to this one. I stopped paying attention to these samples from the movie while reading. Moreover, some of them could easily refer to this terror story, and the album and the book worked so well together that when years later the Terror TV show came out with, by the way, very good soundtrack with tracks by Lastmore or Lost Seal. I regret so much that nobody came up with the idea to invite Irazumi to make the music for this series. Endurance, really great immersive album, number 14, Irazumi, Endurance. And now number 13. Blood Axis and Le Joyeux de la Princesse, Absinthia Tetra. Le Joyeux de la Princesse was already featured on the list with the Expo International album, while Blood Axis appears for the first and last time, which is not surprising because it is mainly a martial or folk or neoclassical project, depending on the album. And it's like a another version of Absinthe La Folie Verte album released in 2002, also by Athanor Records. And this this version additionally includes live recordings from a concert in Sintra, Portugal. Baldur, show your face to the camera. No, okay. Basically, I like both versions the same. And to be honest, the place on this list could be for both, but I choose Absinthia Tetra because, well, I have it in an original version. As La Folie Verte I have only on CDR. Well, okay. Michael Moynihan, Annabel Lee and Eric Konofal joined forces to create a unique work dedicated to Green Fairy, Absinthe, an alcoholic drink made of wormwood and several other plants and herbs. A drink which is a symbol of European decadence at the turn of the century and inspiration for artists. And I think that the main goal of the musicians was to convey this decadent atmosphere, as well as an attempt to musically reflect the state of intoxication with absinthe, the kind of hallucinogenic trip, and opening new levels of perception. Did they succeed? Of course, tremendously. I can't imagine it being done in a more suggestive way. Already on the occasion of the Les Joyaux de la Princesse Expo International album, I mentioned that this project can perfectly reflect the spirit of the times from 60, 70, 80 or 100 or more than 100 years ago. I think that the most of the music on this one was actually made by Eric Konofal, and Blood Axis is mainly violin and male vocals, well, maybe some additional sounds as well, because this album sounds very princess. On Expo, it was about the events that took place just before World War II. Here we have the turn of 19th and 20th century. Rich, bored gentlemen, poor poets, desperately looking for inspiration, beautiful horse, all of them entwined in a lunatic dance with a green fairy. I admit that I listened to this album being highly intoxicated, not by absinthe, but other nice beverages, and in this state this album works amazingly. It intensifies that euphoric state and really takes you back to those times. This is extremely immersive music with absolutely addictive drones, Moynihan declamations, Annabel Lee violin, all those samples of songs from that era. Les Joyaux de la Princesse is a model how to use old samples in post-industrial music. No one does it better. No one. In general, this album and other Les Joyaux de la Princesse releases were also an inspiration for my own project, Le Garmont d'Esprit. Of course, I am not able to match the level of the French's work, even in a tiny bit, but still, at least I try. A one-of-a-kind album. Blood Axis, Les Joyaux de la Princesse, Absinthia Tetra, number 13. Okay, now number 12. Desideri Marginis, Deadbeat. Johan Levin's project, Swedish project. At first associated with cold meat industry, and then after the end of label's activities, releasing 4 albums for Cyclic Law. With a small French detour, the album The Evergreen Tree, released on Chaostatic Conspiration. Deadbeat is the second album of the project, released in 2001. For a long time, or at least in my opinion, longer than it was justified, Desideri Marginis was considered to be, well, yes, talented, but still just a little brother of Raison d'Être. Even the label itself, called Meat Industry, promoted Desideri Marginis in that way back in the days. And in my opinion, only on the first album, The Songs of Ruins, and maybe partially on Deadbeat, you could say that there are any smaller or bigger parallels between both projects. But later the paths of Desideri Marginis and Raison d'Être began to diverge for good. Johan Levin developed his own style and began to use the attributes that we don't experience in Raison d'Être music. And very quickly, Desideri Marginis became a project which stands on its own feet and not some Raison d'Être imitator, you know. To say the truth, each and every album from the debut, The Songs of Ruins to Seven Sorrows, could be on my list. I love all of them unconditionally. Until the end, I hesitated between the above mentioned The Evergreen Tree, that which is tragic and timeless, and Deadbeat. And I decided to choose Deadbeat because I have the best memories related with this one, and I also think that after a beautiful but quite, I don't know, shy debut, the project started to spread its wings fully on Deadbeat, but still retaining that very characteristic Swedish cold meat style. And on this one we have everything that we love about this project, and that label, of course, as well, at least when the label was in its peak. Cold drones, a bit of gloomy industrial music, a pinch of sacred solemnity, and a lot of great atmosphere. Similarly to the Endurance by Irezumi, you only need to listen to this album, I don't know, 2 or 3 times, and you will be able to recognize individual songs. You know, it's Desideri Marginis at its best. Cold meat industry at its best. In my opinion, Deadbeat could easily serve as one of the symbols of this label, and then kind of introductory album for someone who doesn't know cold meat industry but would like to get acquainted with it. I chose Deadbeat. I mentioned the marvelous The Evergreen Tree, and that which is tragic and timeless, where Johan Levin, for example, introduced acoustic guitars and vocals, element that have never been present in Raison d'Être music. But I also have to mention Strife with those louder fragments, some even on the verge of power electronics maybe, or death industrial. Seven Sorrows, an extremely intimate and introspective album, and even Serenity Rage, released last year, which is a kind of return to older cold meat sound. I think Desideri Marginis is one of the very few projects on this list which is still active, but not overactive or hyperactive, and therefore still at dark ambient top. It was number 12, Desideri Marginis, Deadbeat. And now time for number 11, the last one for today. Atomin Electrin, Nebulous. A moment ago, when I was talking about Deadbeat, I mentioned Raison d'être several times. Raison d'être already appeared on my list earlier with the album The Stains of Embodied Sacrifice, and well, okay, no spoilers, no spoilers. Raison d'être is a Peter Anderson project, so maybe it's time for some Peter Anderson, no? But not with Raison d'être, but with Atomin Electrin project. Or Atomine Electrine, I have no idea what's the correct pronunciation. Peter Anderson likes to romance with different types of electronic and post-industrial music in various projects, be it pure sacral, sometimes industrialized dark ambient in Raison d'être, or organic ambient in Necrophorus, more industrial sounding Boxholm, and even power electronics in Stratum Terror. There are also the projects like Svastiayanam, Panzer, Grisman, and Cataclysm. Cold Meat Industry even released a compilation consisting only of various tracks by his projects. I'm talking about Perception Multiplied, Multiplicity Unified, I think that's the correct title. Anyway, in Atomin Electrin, Peter Anderson explores ambient heavily saturated with the so-called Berlin School. That is kind of electronic branch of music originating from krautrock or cosmic music based on repetitive sounds of analog synthesizers, to put it briefly. The most important, of course, repetitive sounds of analog synthesizers, I meant Berlin School, not krautrock. Anyway, the most important representatives of the scene were, for example, Klaus Schulze or Tangerine Dream, and Nebulous is the fourth, I think, Atomin Electrin album, although in Peter's case and his inclination for reissues and releasing collections of archival recordings, etc., I'm always very cautious about numbering. In any case, Nebulous was released in 2007 by the Brazilian label Essence Music, a label that has always paid attention to the graphic design of its albums. And what do we have here? You know, space, stars, science, but also a certain romanticism. I don't know what equipment was used during the production of Nebulous, but despite its retro inspirations, Nebulous sounds quite modern. There's a lot of space and great melodies, and that Peter Anderson special feeling, you know, that shapes all his projects. He may be inspired or referred to this or that musical form, but his individual mark is always present. It's a kind of ambient equivalent of books by Isaac Asimov or Arthur C. Clarke, rooted in science but also full of faith in the human mind, curiosity what lies above and beyond the stars, and the belief that one day we will reach there, we will find out what's out there someday. this is definitely Atomine Selectrine's best album so far, epic and majestic. A real journey to the stars. Although I am also highly rate Laniakia, released by Vrotage Records in 2015. What a talented guy this Peter is. We'll meet him again on this list very, very soon. Oh, okay. I'm a bit tired. I have to drink. Sorry. So I have to finish this video, this 8th part of my top 50 dark deep ambient albums list. Thanks for watching and see you soon.